And getting all of that changed over was just truly transformational.
That was Lori Anderson. Lori is the president and CEO of the International Sign Association. She was named Trade Association Executive of the Year, and she just celebrated her 20th anniversary leading ISA. But when she took over, things were a bit more unstable.
I was the fifth CEO in 6 years.
In this chat, we're talking change management, stabilizing chaos, and how to be comfortable in your own skin as an association leader.
There's some foundational reasons why their organization have been going through so much turmoil. That needed to change.
We also discussed navigating unimaginable personal hardships while at the same time transforming the structure and the culture of an entire organization.
In all of this, I was undergoing treatment for cancer.
She's one of the most effective and accomplished CEOs in our industry. She's inspiring, relentless, and above all, kind. You won't want to miss this interview with Lori. You actually started out as a music teacher. What is that all about? Give us a little bit of background on how that happened.
Well, I grew up on a farm in North Dakota. And when I was growing up, it was a different time. Mm-hmm. And I was led to believe that there were three main roles for a female at the time in rural United States. And it was either be a nurse, a teacher, or a farmer's wife. I didn't excel in sciences, so nursing was out. There was no way I was going to be a farmer's wife. And so I thought, you know what? I love music. And I had always been involved in music. And so that's what I'll do. I'll be a music teacher. And my first teaching job was on a Native American reservation in North Dakota. And then I went to the suburbs of Baltimore. Talk about a huge difference. And then I realized I just, you know what? It wasn't the place. I just don't think I was meant to be a music teacher for the rest of my career. And so that's where it all started. And then circumstances, and I ended up where I am now.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful that you did because, I've watched you, I think, throughout the years. I've been in the association industry for about 20 years. And there are certain people that you just see flourish. They are leaders. You've been one of them that I have observed over the years and followed and listened to. And so I think that, the fact that you've been honored with this great award, how do you feel about that too? Are you still kind of excited about it? Because that's still relatively new that you heard about that. And that's a big deal.
I am still in a state of disbelief. I have to look at the amazing list of individuals who have received this award in the past. Mm-hmm. And it just is, it's almost indescribable, the honor that it is. And I think it also reflects that no matter where you are in what association, because most of the award recipients over the years have led really huge associations and renowned for their lobbying and their influence on Capitol Hill. And here we are, ISA, relatively small, maybe one of the smallest associations, leaders to ever get this award. It just shows that the association community is very diverse. It could have small little groups, could have large groups, but the impact that we have is significant. And so I'm proud of that fact that, there isn't another group like ISA that's been awarded. And so I'm just so grateful, and it's hard to put it into words how I feel about it.
Oh, I love that. I mean, one of the things I know that's been associated with you and your leadership at ISA has been transformation. And transformation means change, and change is uncomfortable for people. That's something that's always hard. And we have change management for a reason, right? And so, I think that can make being a leader in a place where, if transformation has been the word that's been associated with what you've done at ISA, you have to have come across some challenges with change. So what has been the most challenging part of transforming ISA? And how did you stay true to your vision when facing those challenges?
There was a lot of transformation, particularly in the first decade of my tenure there. When I was the fifth CEO in 6 years,
Mm.
and
Mm.
the organization just was under so much turmoil. There wasn't consistency, and that was reflected not just in the top spot. There was a reason for that. The board was in turmoil. There was huge turnover of staff because of the turnover in the exec. And I came into this, and the first few years, I realized very quickly I needed to stabilize things. And I was a new CEO, so I needed to be comfortable in my own skin and really get to know the individuals on my team as people, not as their title. I needed to make sure I get to know board members in that same way. So it was that leveling of kind of calming the waters a bit. And in that process, I realized there's some foundational reasons why their organization have been going through so much turmoil. And there was a misalignment between the governance structure, the membership structure, the financial system. Everything was not aligned. And that needed to change. That started a 5-year journey working with the board and the senior team and completely changing all of that. The governance structure, membership, financial structures, everything needed to change. I needed a lot of support, and I needed good partners. Finding the right, I know you know well, Glenn Tecker with Tecker Consulting was one of these, for the first people I met who I could talk through this, and he guided me along with a wealth of CEOs that became my rock of who to talk through all this. And the resulting change was really hard for the industry. There are many industries are like this. It's just that's how you've done it. Is what last 30 years is how you should always do it. And getting all of that changed over took about 5 years to do it. Was just truly transformational.
Did your leadership style evolve along with that? Did you find that you yourself were changing as the organization was changing as well?
Oh, well, it's hard not to, right?
Yeah.
And you can't look at it in a vacuum. It wasn't just me and my work life. I had personal situations that I was dealing with. In all of this, I was undergoing treatment for cancer.
Oh my gosh.
So I am a breast cancer survivor. And through all of this, that's what was going on. And so you see people who are in top positions and you think, well, they have a huge association, they have all these resources, or they're just for some reason, they're just lucky in ending up where they are, all of which may have some elements of truth, but you never know what's going on behind the scenes.
You really
and
don't.
So not only was I enmeshed in this, I really want the organization to succeed. And I really believed in what they were doing, and I still do. I was also being transformed during this process. And that's when I just became more in tune to what makes me tick, and the understanding of the importance of being in the moment and being in the here and now was all happening all at the same time.
Are there certain mentors? Are there certain people who've shown up that have sort of helped you to, when facing the challenges that you faced, and helped you to get to and grow as a leader, get to the point where you are and grow as a leader?
Countless. I've never been one to have one mentor because there's so much you can learn from every single person you meet. I'm very supportive of being part of networking groups and CEO groups and peer groups to help you nurture your journey. There was a career aspirational event I went to. This was many, many years ago. And many people listening will remember Marshall Brown. He was
Oh yeah,
worked
Marshall.
for right,
Yes.
um, and and he gave me inspiration to begin the job search for my CEO role.
Wow.
And
Wow.
this will, if he hears this podcast, he will probably be surprised that I still remember some of
Shout out
his,
to Marshall.
I know some of his encouragement. But I think about my very first association boss, who was one of the first people I invited to come to the luncheon
Mm,
for the award in March. Um, he hired me so many years ago, and he was so supportive. And that first boss can mean everything to you, right? I mean,
mhm.
he believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. But he never micromanaged. He encouraged every step of the way. And he's long retired, but he's going to be coming to that lunch in March
Oh my
because I
gosh.
want to acknowledge that the part that he played in my life. And I just think there's so many people who I've run into, and just that little teeny bit of wisdom can just stick with me and go, that's really great advice. And so it's not just one mentor, there's
Mhm.
hundreds, if not thousands, of little moments over the years where I've just gained so much by being around other people in this wonderful profession.
Mm. Sometimes, it's like it's kind of like with certain friendships and stuff. A group or a mentor sort of a mentorship setup, it works for a little bit, but it's not for the long term. Or, you move past that zone and it's like you grow or, it just moves into a different sort of space. And so understanding when it works and when it doesn't work is also important, right?
Well, and there's different needs you have. Sometimes your need may be more emotional or maybe
Mm-hmm.
more in your soul. You need rejuvenation of your spirit.
Right.
But then there can be transactional. I need to find I need to find someone who can help me do X, or
Yeah.
I need help with membership structures or financial processes or whatever it is. And they can sometimes be the same people, but often they're just different. You get your spirit raised in different ways through different types of people, and knowing what you need at the moment is just as important as reaching out to people.
Sometimes we can get a little isolated and we can get, bound to the same type of thinking, the same types of patterns ourselves. And so it makes sense that you want to reach out and be learning and be aware. How do you do that? How do you continuously look for new ways to be inspired? What is your process, or do you have one?
Oh, there have been many times that I've just at a kind of a low point, like really, where am I right now? You just take stock, stop a bit, and start to really understand yourself. And if that
Mm.
involves having an executive coach, as I've done a few times over the years, occasionally finding a therapist that I need to just talk through some things. Seriously, mental health care is
Yeah, absolutely.
incredibly important. Or going to peer groups, or maybe shutting everything off,
Mm.
reading a book, going for a run, doing something else, of just digging into a hobby or something. Sometimes it can just be shutting off the computer. I have learned that my to-do list will never go away. Your to-do list will still be there when you die, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
um, there comes a time, and I know I'm not an afternoon person, right? And then it's like 3 o'clock. I went, if I keep on going, this is the diminishing returns. I'm going to stop, even for 10 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and just either meditate a little bit, walk around a little bit, do something else. And that can be just what you need to keep on going.
Is there one example of a decision or an initiative that maybe best exemplifies your impact on ISA and the broader industry? Is there maybe one thing you're really proud of that you think, ah, yeah, I really nailed it on that one?
There's so many little things. There's decisions to change staffing structures or to
Mhm,
give someone more responsibility or the hard decisions that maybe the tenure with a particular group or a particular individual's time has come
mhm,
and we need to move on in a different way. All those are huge decisions in the moment. But if you look back over 2 decades of work,
mhm.
they just all accumulate, and there's not any one thing.
A theme I'm picking up on with you is about your connection, I guess your ability to be perceptive about people and just paying attention. And so, you know, that speaks to a team, that speaks to a team culture. And certainly when you're working with a staff and you are trying to figure out like what works for these people, how do we continue to cultivate this on purpose? How do we do right by each other? What goes into that team culture? What goes into sort of building a strong team culture for ISA?
I look at culture as the most important job I have.
Mm,
For without culture, it falls apart. I remember distinctly. Um, it was an event I went to with other association folks. It was a top executive with the company Freeman,
mhm,
who most people know, especially if you do trade shows.
mhm,
Freeman is a great partner of ours, and the woman speaking was talking about culture, and this is one of those moments you just when a light bulb clicks on, right? She said, "Describe your culture," and I sat back and I went, "Holy moly! I know what culture I think I want." But I guess if I went to everybody on staff and had them write down what they wanted in a culture and what they thought ISA's culture was, we'd have a zillion different answers. And that one question led me to, okay, we need to come together as a team, define the culture we have,
mhm,
but importantly, define the culture we aspire to.
mm,
And that led to a couple years of some small working groups on the staff doing a culture assessment. Really, and we didn't have a bad culture, but didn't have, we needed an aspirational culture.
mhm,
And we needed to define what that is, because what does that mean? And now we call it our culture code. And we explain that to every prospective person who joins the organization. Fortunately, we have pretty low turnover, so that doesn't happen too often. And we include that as the top thing in our job descriptions. Is the culture defines everything, and we should hire for culture. And if someone doesn't meet our culture, maybe they're a great employee or a great member of the team, but maybe a different culture would be better for them. And that is front and center for everything we do, and it's probably one of the hardest aspects of my job,
mm,
because I believe strongly we need to meet people where they are and
mhm.
not expect them to come to where we are. And every single person who joins the organization changes the culture. It's
Yeah.
just human nature, right? And so weaving all that together is a constant adaptation, and people are not, they don't stay the same, right?
Yeah,
Throughout,
right.
I mean, how I've talked about it, how I've evolved in the 20 years in this role. Certainly, people evolve even in terms of a year or two into their profession, and so that's a constant adaptation, understanding where people are in their lives. But I think it's the most important thing that a leader can do.
Let's talk about the association industry itself. There's definitely a lot of change that's happening, facing all of us. No matter what, where you are in society, in the world, we have so many things that are happening as far as change right now as human beings on this planet. And certainly when we zoom into the association industry, we see that it too, on its own, is facing a number of different changes. What is your perspective on the sort of overall state of the association industry, and what do you think is important for its future success?
Oh, what an easy question, Kiki.
I know I save the easy ones at the end. I figure
I
we'll
know.
go with
Well,
the harder
gosh.
ones to begin with, and then
Um,
you can
yeah,
totally say pass. You can call a friend. I'm
no.
open to all ideas.
Honestly, I don't know if, yes, it's upheaval, and the world is very much an upheaval.
Yes.
Um, but change has always been. There's always been change.
Mhm.
And to take one moment at a time is so important. And to realize what's out of your control, and the point of worrying about what you cannot do anything about is absolutely pointless.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm singing to the choir. I need to tell myself that too. But you can only do what you can do,
Yeah.
and you think about everything that's coming at us, right? The um, Most associations have some involvement in lobbying or government relations, or if you don't, you're impacted by it. Your members are more pulled apart on the political spectrum than I've ever witnessed before.
Mm, mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
all of that adds to a lot of stress. You have what will AI mean? What there's only, I got to have the latest. You have to make sure all of your technology systems are talking to one another and working in sync. You need to have all the skill sets, and our budgets are tight. It's constant. And so all we can do is be in the moment and do the best we can and give yourself some grace.
Mhm.
Just give yourself some grace that you are doing the best you can in any given moment. And when you're not doing the best you can, that's okay too. Because you can't be at 100% every second. And sometimes you need to shut that computer down and go take a nap.
I mean, it feels good to hear you say that, Lori, because it seems like you are 100%. I mean, I am talking to this award-winning trade association executive of the year after all. It does kind of feel like maybe you're doing 100% all the time, but it feels good for you to hear you say that, because it is true,
I'm
I
not even
mean.
close. In all seriousness, I occasionally just go in my basement on a very comfy couch, set a timer, and close my eyes for 10 minutes
Yeah.
because I just have to
Good.
separate myself. I put on a meditation app
Mhm.
and I'm out for 10 minutes. The sign industry is not going to fall apart if I do that. And
Right.
I hope that, and neither will anyone else. And it will be better for me physically, emotionally, spiritually if I do that. And I
Yeah.
just, and to recognize it, and
Yeah.
be vulnerable and say, you know what, I can't do it all.
Yeah. Yeah. None of us can. None of us can. I know, one of the things, and talking about meditation, this ability to take a step away. and this isn't a question that was probably on your list of things that I'm going to ask you, but a popular conversation lately has been around creating better boundaries between ourselves and our technology, and figuring out, how is it that we can, sort of negotiate our lives on better terms, putting our phones away, not being absorbed in the screens that we're surrounded by. What's your take on that? How do you go? What's your approach? What's the Lori Anderson approach to managing the screens that are in your life on the day to day?
It's no question, it's addictive. Many, countless studies have shown that. I know, well, I struggle with sleep for a whole lot of reasons, but it's worse if I am on my phone or an iPad before I go to sleep. It's that the whole concept of the blue light and all of this, it really does impact you. I'm a voracious reader. So yes, I have the actual paper books, but I have a paperwhite Kindle. So I tend to not watch, because you get sucked in the world of YouTube or the reels on Instagram, and you can you said, what the heck? An hour just flew by. I thought it was 5 minutes. So I set that off. I have the timer my phone set on do not disturb. And after that point, I tend not to look at it. And I will not get up in the middle of the night and look at my phone. I know people who do, and I think that's the worst thing you can do. I really do. And I understand the draw, particularly if you have members or your business is in other time zones. You feel like you have to, but you don't. You just don't. So I read before I go to bed. I exercise every day. So sometimes I do some yoga or stretching before I go to bed, just to get your head out of it. And I still sleep great? No, I don't. But if I was on Instagram or on YouTube or watching, it makes it worse.
Is there a what are some of your go-to professional resources? You mentioned ASAE earlier, and obviously lots of great resources there. But are there any go-tos? Are there I always have to read, watch, listen to X?
I'm more of a talking to person. I get my inspiration from others. And yes, I will look things up. But if I look back at my career and the professional relationships I have I was on the ASA board, and those board members, that was, 10 years ago now, are still vital in my network. The Council of Manufacturing Associations, through the National Association of Manufacturers, was instrumental. I mean, they were there at the very beginning. At the time, Stephen Gold, who is an association exec, he was the executive director of the Council of Manufacturing Associations when I started at ISA, and he's still one of my closest friends and confidants. And he inspired me to become more involved in that organization. And I ended up being chair at one point of that group. And those connections are really my go-to. And so if I have an issue I need to solve, of course, I'll see if ASAE has any resources, but I go out to these networks and say, I need help with X, and flooded with answers. But importantly, you have to do the same in return. And if anyone comes to me with, there's a big women's group within the Council of Manufacturing Associations that has a tremendous give and take, because when I started 20 years ago, there were hardly any women leading manufacturing associations. Now there's a whole cadre of us, and it's pretty awesome.
Mm.
And that's where I go, because I guarantee you someone will have gone through what I've gone through.
Well, I am looking at the time, and it's so easy to talk to you. I ran into this before where I wanted to keep talking, and I'm like, well, I can't really do that because we have schedules. But thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. Your wisdom, you're just so wonderful at telling stories. Now I think I understand why. I've got a little insight into the fact that you're very well read and you're always reading something. And so, of course, you're a great storyteller. You've got
Stories are everything. In fact, okay, we have this event I say every year, it's always in January, and it's called the Leadership Congress.
uh-huh.
It brings the board and about 21 other senior elected leaders of the organization. So all in all, with staff, it ends up being about 50 or so people. One year, I I didn't even really tell them what the theme was going to be, because I thought they would look at me like I had three heads and maybe not come.
Mhm.
Um, it was on storytelling. I did an entire 2-day workshop with CEOs of companies on the importance of storytelling. And to this day,
So
people
good.
say that it's one of their favorite ones they ever went to.
Mhm.
It was because we needed to understand the industry better so that we could tell their story better. But in order to
Mm.
do that, they needed to be able to understand how to tell their story. So the whole 2 days was about how you can create stories to influence people. And if there's a group of regulators or other people in the industry we need to influence, or the industry itself, you can't just go and say, yes, we had a meeting and we passed this bill and we did this. You need to tell it in a story. And here
Yeah.
we were 2 days immersed. And I swear I never told my board. I kind of said it, it's about communications and marketing. Like, I didn't tell
Yeah.
them it was going to be, we're going to bring in a storytelling expert, because they're going to go, what kind of craziness is this? And it ended up being just an amazing 2 days of learning best how to tell what this amazing industry does. The National Journal found out about it, and they had, at the time, I don't know if they do it anymore, they do like annual awards for initiatives in the
Mhm.
public policy space. We were given the award and we didn't even apply,
Are
because
you
they
kidding?
heard about it and they thought it was so fascinating, that we did this. And so we got the whatever award it was for storytelling, and we didn't even put in an application to get the award. And it's just so important, and we carry that with us. We need to remind ourselves of that all the time,
Yeah.
that we shouldn't just put out a headline and put out a newsletter saying what we did. You got to tell it in a story.
Gotta tell it in a story. Ooh, now I am, and I'm really inspired. And I feel like, how can I apply this to my own work that I do and the things I'm doing? Thank you for that. I want to thank you genuinely, just for taking the time to join us today. It's meant a lot. You have great information. You have great wisdom and experience, but you're also inspiring. And I think that that's something that everyone can learn from, can grow from. But it's something that I hope that lots and lots and lots of people are able to be exposed to, so that they can also be inspired by who you are.
Oh, thank you. That means a
Yeah.
lot. Thank you very much. And I received that.
Thank you. Wonderful.